Hey everyone! So if you're using Nitro, you already know it's a seriously powerful server. But you know where the real magic is? It's hiding in plain sight, right inside its configuration file. Think of it as the ultimate control panel, letting you tweak everything from deployments and caching to routing, and even auto-generating your API docs. Let's dive in and unlock all that potential.
We've all been there, right? It's that classic developer moment. You pop open a config file and you're just hit with this wall of text, this sea of properties. You know they're important, but trying to figure out which ones you actually need to care about, yeah, it can be a little overwhelming.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to fix right now. In this quick explainer, we're going to build a clear mental map of the Nitro config. The goal is that you'll know exactly where to look to deploy your app, make it faster, and manage all its routing like a pro. So, here's the game plan. We'll start with the absolute must-knows, the core config. Then, we'll get into making your app super fast with assets and caching. After that, we'll take control of how requests are handled. And finally, we'll peek at a few of the really cool power user features. Sound good? Let's do it.
Okay, first up, the core configuration. You can think of these as the foundation of your entire setup. Getting these few settings right from the get-go is going to make everything else, from deploying your app to maintaining it down the road, so much smoother.
If you only remember one thing from this section, make it this one, the preset. This single line of code is probably the most important setting for deployment. It tells Nitro where you're going to host your app. Is it Vercel, Netlify, a plain old node server? And just like that, Nitro automatically handles all the specific optimizations needed for that platform. It's awesome.
And here's what's really cool. When you're in development, Nitro is secretly using a special Nitro Dev preset. That's why your server reloads almost instantly when you save a file. But when you build for production, it automatically switches to a lean, mean, performance-focused preset like Node Server. So you get the best of both worlds without even having to think about it.
A couple of other core settings you run into a lot. Runtime config is where you put your server-side secrets, like API keys. It keeps them safe and out of your front-end code. And compatibility date is a really clever little feature. It basically lets you lock in your preset's behavior, so when Nitro gets updated in the future, it won't accidentally break your live app. Super handy.
All right, our server is configured. Now, let's make it fast. In this section, we're going to dive straight into performance. We'll focus on how to handle your static assets and use caching to give your users that lightning-fast experience we're all after.
The easiest way to think about asset optimization in Nitro is as this simple three-step pipeline. Step 1, you tell Nitro where your assets are. Step 2, you tell it to make them smaller by compressing them. And Step 3, you tell browsers how long they should hold on to them. That's really it.
And this is a perfect example of how powerful this config can be. Right there, inside the public asset setting, where you're already just pointing to a folder, you can also add a max age property. And boom, Nitro will automatically add the correct cache control headers to every single file in that folder for you. It's just so efficient.
Now, for maximum control, you're going to want to use route rules. This lets you get super granular and set different caching strategies for different parts of your site. Just look at the slide. You can set up a stay-a-while revalidate strategy for your blog, which is great for user experience. Or you can apply custom headers to your assets, or even mark an entire section of your site as fully static. So flexible. Okay, so let's shift gears from serving static files to handling actual logic. This next section is all about controlling the flow of requests, how to intercept them, redirect them somewhere else, and, of course, manage what happens when things go wrong.
A classic development headache is trying to call a separate backend API and getting hit with those awful CORS errors. Well, Dev Proxy is your best friend here. It makes it so easy. For a quick proxy, you can just use a simple string. But if you need more control, like changing the request origin header, you can switch to the object syntax. It's built to handle whatever you throw at it.
And look who's back! It's route rules again. See, they're not just for caching. You can also use them to define server-side redirects, which is fantastic for SEO when you move pages around. You can even set up proxies that work in production, which is perfect for routing a nice, clean public URL to one of your internal API endpoints.
So what happens when things inevitably break? By default, Nitro has a pretty standard error page, but the error handler option lets you take complete control. You just point it to a file that exports a custom handler, and from there you can log errors, set custom headers, and return a beautiful on-brand error page instead of something generic. All right, we've reached our final section.
Now we're going to get into the really advanced stuff. Think of these as the power user tools that solve some very specific, but also very common problems that you might run into.
You know, I love that the Nitro docs themselves give a little warning here. It's like, caution, you're entering the expert zone now. These tools are incredibly powerful, but they also give you enough rope to, well, so it's good to be curious, but also a little bit careful.
Okay, here's a situation I bet a lot of you have faced. You're building a serious API. How on earth do you document all of your endpoints without it becoming this massive manual chore that's always out of date?
Well, Nitro has an absolutely brilliant experimental feature for this. You just flip one switch, experimental.openAPI, and Nitro will automatically scan your API routes, generate a standard OpenAPI spec file, and even serve up these beautiful interactive documentation UIs with Scalar and Swagger. It's off by default in production for security, but you can easily turn it on if you want to provide live docs for your API. It's a game changer. And there you have it. That's our grand tour. If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that the nitro.config file is so much more than just a list of settings. It's a complete toolkit for building, optimizing, and controlling your server.
So now you have the map. You know what's possible, from these powerful caching rules all the way to auto-generated API docs. The only question left is, what are you going to build and optimize first? Go on, dive into that config file and start making your app amazing.